Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Teal Tinted Glasses. Sorry about a little bit of later start than normal. Work, eating, gotta make sure that we're all on top of our game. A game only on Teal Tinted Glasses. Tonight with me, as always, is, for one, Mr. Hockey Jerk. How are you doing, Mr. Hockey Jerk?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
I'm good. How are you, Kevin? Kevin Lacey.
Good. Right now, my lighting is perfect, and sunset is approaching, so we'll see how quickly that goes away. I liked AJ's comment already in the chat saying we're fashionably late, or what I call early. Yeah, that sounds about right.
I was gonna say
Absolutely.
you look dynamite with that lighting.
Yeah, I know. Let's just keep this sun right in the same position the whole show. How about
If
that?
we could just make the sun do what we wanted all the time. Like, think of how great that would be.
Yeah, but good to be on, guys. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope we give you a good show here.
Yeah, especially since we're like competing with a game right now. And I think that's where I'd like to start because we've done a lot of talking, right? About, obviously with the playoffs, we've talked about eliminated teams. We haven't really talked about what's currently going on. So, what is your thoughts with this Tampa Montreal series?
I mean,
Go ahead.
I think the thing that's on display that's painfully obvious is just how good this Tampa Bay team is, right? I mean, they were Sportsnet threw up a graphic earlier in tonight's game 5, if you're listening on the audio stream, where it's like, yeah, the Stamkos, Sorelli, Ross Colton line, they've only got one goal. You probably want more from them, and I'm like, well, wait, hold on, because the Barkley, Goodrow, Yanni Gord, Blake Coleman line's got 3 goals. Pat Maroon's got 2 goals. Like, they're doing just fine, and not even talking about that Nikita Kucherov guy with his despite the bionic hip, is leading the playoffs in scoring again. So this team is just really good, and I know a lot of people have just things to say about their salary cap even going into next year, but I mean, unless some kind of natural disaster happens, I think it's just going to keep rolling year to year. And I mean, Montreal's hanging in there, but they're outmatched. I mean, that's the short version.
The whole saying is, to be the man, you have to beat the man. Woo! And to me, I hope I said it on a podcast last year. I was looking on Twitter because I swore I tweeted it, but I said I thought Tampa was a serious threat to go back to back. At this point, they seem to about to be completing that. And I would not be surprised if this team goes to the finals next year because salary cap aside, like, people can complain about the salary cap all they want, but to me, it's like, you can't say that if they win the Stanley Cup tonight, that they won because of the salary cap. Because it's the same damn team that they won with last year. The only difference is they have David Savard instead of Zach Bogosian, which is an upgrade. I'll give them that, obviously. But other than that, it's literally the same freaking roster. So I think it's a very poor excuse for people saying, oh, salary cap, blah, 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 blah. They're the best team in the league. They've proven it before. I picked them to win the cup this year. Jerk picked them to win the cup this year. And guess what? They're about to win the cup this year. Why is anyone surprised? I think the biggest shock is Montreal hanging in here. I don't think they're at the same level as Tampa Bay, guys. I think that Tampa Bay is showing that, why they are the best team. But I am surprised at how well Montreal is hanging in this series. Like, I don't think Montreal is making asses of themselves out there. Like, I think they're actually playing just as well as they did in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs when no one was giving them a chance. I certainly wasn't giving them a chance. I think Montreal is playing great. How do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I think Montreal's is hung in there. I mean, you saw when, like, the last series between Tampa and the Islanders, where, like, there's the one game where Tampa just blew the doors off the Islanders. That hasn't happened this series. I mean, I'm at the point now. It's weird because normally I'm like, I want the hockey to last as long as possible, but I know it's a short off season this year, so I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. Let's get to the good stuff now, right? Like, it sucks because, like, I feel like right now, regardless of what happens tonight, if either Tampa wins or Montreal prolongs the inevitable, in my opinion. Like that's kind of the way I'm looking at it now. So I'm kind of like, let's get on with it, because there's so much cool stuff that's coming, and you know that teams aren't going to do anything to upstage the Stanley Cup final. So you want to make, we need the series to end so that teams can start making more trades and doing stuff to try and stop the evil Seattle from screwing up their team, and making all these pre-deals and stuff like that. Like that's what I want to get to. I want to get to the part where Seattle starts making deals, or teams start making deals to thwart Seattle taking one of their one of their key guys that they can't seem to protect. So yeah, I mean, I love hockey, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure I'll eventually miss it. I like the Stanley Cup Finals. Stanley Cup Finals great though, because like it weans you off. You go from hockey every night to like every night, and then every other night, and then sometimes when you have like, obviously when it goes this far into the summer, you got to take an extra night off for July 1st, July 4th. So it's nice that it weans you off like an addict. You wean yourself off at the end.
Well, and to your point, Ian, I mean, I'm with you. Like, I didn't watch the first 2 games of this series. I picked it up in game 3, and I'm starting to get that feeling. I'm like, damn, I wish I would have watched game 1 and 2, just because I love watching the sport no matter who's playing. But to your point, when the final ends, a lot of really exciting things are going to happen. I mean, expansion draft is like, that's an added bonus. But the thing that stands out to me, and we can move on to this, or we can talk more about the first topic, but I feel like this is the first time in I don't know how long where there are this many high-profile names that are rumored to be available.
No, I completely agree. I mean, there's a lot of names out there. Obviously, Jack Eichel's the big one. But obviously, there's some news we'll get into in a second. There's Seth Jones. I mean, it's wild. Like there's definitely, it's going to be an interesting summer. Like I think this is going to be one of the more interesting summers, because there's a lot of intrigue, especially leading up to the draft, which is why you kind of need this to end, so we can kind of start seeing where, because I don't think anyone's going to trade Jack Eichel while the Stanley Cup Finals going. Like that's not going to happen. Yeah. But if I'm Buffalo, I want to get this deal done before the draft, because I want to get one of those top picks, like that I know is going to be a top pick this year. In that top 10. Like I think there's going to be a lot of good players in the top 10. I don't think there's going to be anything super game breaking, but I mean, other than like your 1-2 picks, but I mean, it's going to be, if I'm Buffalo, that's where I want one of those picks. So I want this final to be done so people can start actually doing business.
Yeah. I mean, and just talking about Buffalo, Buffalo's got a lot going on. Kevin Adams is going to have probably double the work in a single off season, because you've got Jack Eichel, you've got Sam Reinhart requesting a trade. The Sabres tried to get rid of Brandon Montour all season long. New coach coming in with Don Granato. I know we were talking before the show that I think. That it's a bit interesting. I'll just say really quickly that he's a player's coach. The players love him, but at the same time, if you're trying to blow that team up, does it matter if the players like him? None of them are going to be around next year. So I thought that was a little weird. But yeah, lots of big names. And of course, about an hour before our show began here tonight, Vladimir Tarasenko has requested a trade from the Blues. Are you guys surprised? Because I'm really not surprised by this. But are you guys surprised by this?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not surprised that he asked for a trade. I'm surprised for the reasons. I don't know how you feel about that, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit surprised that Tarasenko has requested a trade. I mean, I don't really follow the Blues that closely, right? And I think this year was a really bad year for me watching and really paying attention to other teams, because while the Blues were in the division this year, but I didn't watch a whole lot of hockey outside the Sharks. I know Tarasenko's obviously he's had 3 surgeries now. Going from what was said today, I have this in front of me somewhere here. Let me grab my notes. So basically they're saying trust broke down between the teams because he felt like that the team doctors missed the real problem with his shoulder twice. Before he had the third surgery done by his own medical team, independent of the team. And then there's also, I remember there being some hoopla when Ryan O'Reilly was named captain, and I remember there being a report in a Russian newspaper that Tarasenko wasn't happy. But like the thing with those like Russian newspapers, like European newspapers, is sometimes they can be quite tabloidy in their coverage of sport. I feel like that's fair, right? Especially like some like the Russians, and I feel like there's another country too that's very tabloidy in their coverage.
Sweden. Some of the Swedish tabloids are very trustworthy and very not.
Yeah.
So.
It just seemed, I don't know. I mean, it rung very similar to kind of what's gone on with the Sharks with the last couple of years, where you have Vladimir Tarasenko and he's your big money goal scorer and all this stuff, and then you're bringing in Ryan O'Reilly and Braden Shen, you're bringing David Perron back for the third time, and you bring in Mike Hoffman, and it's like all of a sudden the guy is now just a guy. So from that perspective, I'm kind of like, okay, so they're basically doing to Tarasenko what they did to Petro, where they bring in Krug, they bring in Justin Falk. And so that's why I say I wasn't surprised when he wanted to trade. But then when you read the article in The Athletic, which was a really good article, by the way, if you have the subscription, I recommend reading it. I knew he'd had some issues with his shoulder. I didn't realize that it was like a total breakdown of trust, and that, by all accounts, the team doctors, like you said, Ian, failed him twice, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, with Vladimir Tarasenko too, I mean, it seemed like there was a lot of confusion surrounding his shoulder injuries a lot. The media would talk about, like, is he ready? Is he close? Oh, he's apparently not that close. Oh, now he's in the lineup the next game. Like, they never really got a clear picture about how injured he was. But to me, the big telltale sign that leads into this injury kind of debate between Tarasenko and his team has been, he got hurt, he missed a bunch of time, and then he came back and got hurt I think after like 8 games, if I remember. Like, he got hurt again, and then he had an off season to recover, and then came back and got hurt again. And it didn't seem to me like he was becoming injury prone with that shoulder, which, when you have a shoulder injury, I don't know if anyone out there has had shoulder injuries, but it probably more than any other part of the body, you except for maybe your ankle, you can definitely re-injure it a lot easily than other body parts. But I never got the impression like Tarasenko is injury prone, which is why I actually think that given adequate time to heal, I think he can be I don't know if I would say 40 goal scorer, but certainly in the 30s, I think, for the next few years. And he was getting rushed back into playoff action, it seemed, and just things. There were always these things that, it's kind of like Logan Couture. Now, the Blues were in the playoff picture for most of the years, or in fact, I think all of the years since Tarasenko's injury. But look at Logan Couture. What were we saying about Logan Couture? Why are you playing him? Like, what do you have to prove? Like, let the guy heal so that he's a better player when he comes back. Then I'd rather have Couture miss 10 extra games to become 100% than get him 70% for the rest of the year. Like, I felt like that's what the Blues kept doing with Tarasenko. So, I mean, now it's going to be nut up or shut up from his camp, because if he had that independent surgery you guys are talking about, then we'll find out if he can really, if he's really fully healed but apparently with another team.
Yeah, and I just think. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just think, like, on a personal level too, I think it's really unfortunate that somebody like him, who can just really rip the puck. I mean, 5-time 30 goal scorer, 30+ goal scorer. Like, for somebody who can rip the puck as well as he can, to have the chronic injury going on being a shoulder, I just feel like it's, say what you want about his ability to score goals, but I just think, like, mentally, like, you're the goal scorer who can just shoot the puck from anywhere and hit anywhere, and, like, this nagging injury that's been botched now twice is preventing you from, like, doing your specialty. I just think, like, on a personal level, it just must absolutely suck.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that would concern me a lot too, is with the shoulder injury. I mean, if you're like, this is buyer beware to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing about the big names, guys. Is like Eichel, the neck injury, Tarasenko, the shoulder injury. I feel like
Johnny Gaudreau, the pride injury.
Yeah, there you go. I was actually trying to find something for Gaudreau, so there you go. Yeah, I mean, there's still some caution with these guys. I do have to say, in honor of Doc Emmerich here, 100 seconds to go.
Oh my goodness. All right. So, yeah, look, I think that I think it sucks. I mean, Tarasenko going to be, turning 30, which isn't the end of the world. Like, obviously, you're still, I still think you can be a decent player at 30. 1 year left, 7.5 million AAV. He is due to make 9.5 million real dollars, but I feel like for an NHL team, like, one that he has a full no move. So I feel like for one that he's probably going to go to, I mean, they're not going to be like, oh, 9.5, that's too rich for my blood. Right? So I don't know.
Where do you guys, I mean, obviously we haven't had much time to ponder this, but where do you guys think he goes? Because for me, I'm just going to throw it out there. If the Bruins can't re-sign Taylor Hall, I think that's the top destination for Tarasenko.
That's a decent one. Yeah, I like it.
I like that.
I wonder if a team in New York looks at him. Either the Rangers with Artemi Panarin also there, and those guys are pretty tight. I also wonder if the Islanders take a look at him.
Yeah, the Rangers could be interesting, because I think that article in The Athletic actually referred to Panarin as, like, Tarasenko's best friend. So yeah, that could be something. I mean, I feel like, not to typecast, but I feel like anytime it's a Russian player involved, I feel like you could point to any team that has another Russian player of stature and say, yeah, there, you know what I mean? Like, even like you said, the Islanders, you have Sorokin there and you have Varlamov there.
Here's one. What about a Russian for a Russian? Washington.
Oh, Kuznetsov for Tarasenko?
I could see
that.
Yeah,
I have to think that some of these superstars end up getting traded for each other at some point, right? I mean, I know that is few and far between in the last 15 to 20 years in
Flat
the
cap,
NHL, but why not? We were talking on the last show about Kadri for Kuznetsov, and I don't think Kadri's in a superstar level by any means, but I mean, like, talent for talent. Like, why not Tarasenko for Kuznetsov?
I think in a flat cap, it makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ian. I will say, I think, just based on what their people have come out and said this offseason, I have to think LA would sniff around that as well.
Yeah.
Because LA is on record as saying they want to acquire 2 top 6 forwards, and they've already traded for Kevin's best friend, Viktor Arvidsson. So
almost busted out the jersey tonight, but there'll be plenty of opportunities for me to do that. The LA has the space, expansion-wise. They have the space to acquire basically endless forwards and not lose anyone of consequence.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on. Let's almost
move
done.
on to the Tampa Bay Lightning as your Stanley Cup champions for the second year in a row.
Well, there you have it. Stanley Cup champions. Who is going to win the Conn Smythe before it actually happens?
Andrei Vasilevsky.
Nikita Kucherov.
Braden Point.
Well deserving. Braden Point. Nice. So we
it's
got
in
3.
there. Yeah, I think he's got to be in there.
Losers buy cookies.
Okay, we'll find out. All right, so we'll talk about Montreal next time, I guess, since they are now one of the eliminated teams. We'll talk about Tampa too, I guess. But
I'll just say really quickly, Nick
Go ahead.
Suzuki was fucking beast. Oh, there's the E for you right there. Nick Suzuki
Yes.
was a beast in this.
He's incredible. Don't get me wrong, I love Max Pacioretty, but man, everybody's been talking this year about Vegas's woes at center. Imagine if they had that Nick Suzuki guy.
Yeah. Nick Suzuki's guy I've always been really, really high on. So speaking of the Golden Knights, I guess we could start with them, because this is the whole thing that we've been doing every show since we've started. So what is next for the Vegas Golden Knights? And I will give you the important details. They have $6 million in projected cap space. They have forwards. They got a lot of their guys are under contract next year. Thomas Nosek, Matthias Janmark are the forwards. They are both unrestricted free agents. And Alec Martinez, who is a guy they have to believe they want back, is on the blue line, is an unrestricted free agent.
The unsung hero of that blue line guy.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's going to be really interesting, because I think Alec Martinez is going to get some calls from other teams too. And Vegas, like I said, $6 million in cap space. Not a whole lot of, they don't have a whole lot of wiggle room to make a lot of moves. Obviously, getting Janmark, Doug Wilson had to help them with, eat the cap on that. And this is why I'm no longer a Sharks fan, because they made the playoffs and we didn't, and we could have done it if we had Janmark.
Well, and sure. the biggest war crime of the century was giving Vegas Nick DeSimone.
Right.
who got assigned to Rochester.
Yeah. I mean, I think with Vegas, it's unfortunate, because even though as Sharks fans and Sharks podcasters, we are programmed to not like the Vegas Golden Knights, but aside from their center position, I've actually quite liked how they've built this team the last 2 years. And with that in mind, I don't see a way that they get Alec Martinez re-signed, maybe re-sign Matthias Janmark. I mean, he's expressed interest in coming back. I think he would be perfect for that third line of theirs, but I mean, there's no way around it unless you're throwing guys overboard. I'm thinking, obviously, Fleury is the big one, but I think it's time you send Marchessault or Smith somewhere else, and you need to get Alex Tuchhire in that lineup. I mean, you're paying him almost $5 million to be on your third line. That's fantastic if you want to compete for a Stanley Cup, but it sort of handicaps your ability to acquire other players that you need just as much.
Yeah. I think for me, this is they need to adjust their coaching staff. I know Bill Foley came out recently and said their power play is atrocious, and I'm like, well, do you know you have Steve Spott running it?
Did you analyze your coaching staff and who you were hiring? When you let go of Gerard Gallant and I forget the other guy's name.
Yeah,
Mike Kelly, I think. Anyway,
do you realize who's running your power play? Maybe you could look at what he did on previous teams and see that it wasn't very good there either. And I don't know. I mean, this is a team that probably shouldn't have lost to Montreal, but they did. Montreal, won that series fair and square. I think that they should be upset about it. If I'm Bill Foley, I'm upset, because I think that Vegas on paper was the significantly better team. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because you mentioned Marc-Andre Fleury, and I feel like that is a place where they need to probably make some adjustments. Not adjustments, but they need to pretty much decide what they're going to do there going forward, because I know they've got... I feel like the plan was that they were going to ride out Fleury's contract and then go with Robin Lehner after that, because that's why Robin Lehner signed longer term. But I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting problem to have. I mean, obviously, you have these two starter quality goaltenders, and you don't have to pay the Seattle Piper. I mean, it's that's something else, and that would be the obvious out for them, unfortunately. But they're exempt, so great for them, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of money in goaltending.
Yeah,
I never realized that. Does Leonard have a no movement clause in addition to Fleury?
No, Leonard has a modified no trade, and he provides an 8-team no trade list. So there's still, and actually, that's actually no. I'm sorry. It's an 8-team no trade list in 2 years. It's a 5-team no trade list right now.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have that backwards. It is 8 right now. I'm sorry.
Protect one goalie, so that's why.
But they don't have to. They're Vegas. They're exempt from the expansion draft.
Yes, that's why I haven't noticed them on cap friendly.
That's right. Yeah, they're exempt. They don't have to. They don't have to do it.
That makes no sense to me, but whatever.
I think when they drew up the rules, they didn't expect Vegas to come out of the gate as hard as they did.
Yeah,
like they thought they were going to be competitive, but I don't think they thought they were going to be this when they drew up the rules.
And how much of that inaugural team on Vegas has been thrown overboard, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was just actually it was cap friendly posted yesterday or whatever, said they only have like 5 players from their original team if you don't count Tomáš Nosek leaving and coming back. They only have like 5 players from their original draft list. So I mean, enough time has passed that they should, I feel like they should be involved in the expansion draft. But I think the other part of it could be that the NHL was planning on having Seattle originally begin this season. That might also play into it as well, that extra year pushed out.
I mean, originally, like, if the NHL had their way, Seattle would have had their ducks in a row and came in with Vegas.
Right.
Well, sure. Right.
Well, also, too, it's worth noting, Vegas does not get a cut of the expansion fee.
That's true. That is also true.
Oh, okay.
That's kind of like the caveat to not having to participate in the expansion draft, is they don't get any scratch from it.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
I mean, this team, like, it's same as it ever was for Vegas, right? Like they're gonna be the class of the Pacific next year. There's no way around it. Like I don't think there's anyone in the Pacific that's gonna even come close to Vegas next year, as far as who's gonna dominate the division. It's gonna be Vegas, and then maybe behind them is Edmonton, and then God, who knows? Like that is the beauty of the Pacific next year. I think Edmonton's probably your second place team, and then beyond that, I have no idea. Like throw darts.
So, can I want to interject with something totally unrelated first. So, this is a fun addition to the show. So we were talking about our Conn Smythe picks a couple minutes ago. My girlfriend, who has been a quote unquote hockey fan for 10 months now, she says Victor Hedman is going to win the Conn Smythe.
Oh, okay. All right.
Is that because that's the only name she knows? Maybe. But it's a good choice, I would say. I just wanted to throw that in there.
So, Jerk, you mentioned you missed the first 2 games. I missed games 2 and 3 of this series, but I think Victor Hedman was an absolute stud in games 1, 4, and 5 in the series. And he's going to overshadow Ryan McDonagh, but Ryan McDonagh, and this is, again, we're naming all these different players: Vasilevsky, Point, Kucherov, Hedman, McDonagh. The list goes on and on. Yanni Gourde was really good, and the third line, just like last year, Tampa's third line was amazing. This is why Tampa Bay deserves to win the Stanley Cup again. Like, this team is amazing. Like, I'm sure eventually I will grow tired of them, as most dynasty teams do, but sports in general, not just hockey, have been needing a dynasty who aren't the New England Patriots for some time. So let it be Tampa. If they four-peat, though, I'll be done with it by then.
Sports are better when there's a villain, and Tampa's a great villain.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I completely agree.
We're about to get the Conn Smythe.
Okay.
The Conn Smythe trophy. Let me pander to the fans for a little bit. Well, here in Tampa, the mayor asked us to come back, and it's Andrei Vasilevsky.
There you go.
You all owe me cookies.
There you go, Kevin.
Cookies. Congratulations. I mean, he was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of really good picks there.
That's the incredible thing about this Tampa Bay team is like if any of us were right, like we are legitimately know what the hell we're talking about, because all three of our choices are really good.
Yeah.
You know? Like if I was like, I think Barclay Goodrow is gonna win, then it's like, let's
Because
pump
he
the
had a
brakes.
point in the first 4 games of the series.
Right. But no, it's yeah.
Hey, that's guys. That's 2-time Stanley Cup winner.
Stanley Cup winner
Barclay
Barclay Goodrow.
And shout out to Puck Guy for doing the research. Only the third former Shark in NHL history to win 2 Stanley Cups or more.
Wow.
Shout out to Puck Guy. I don't
Good
know
job,
if he's listening.
Puck Guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he needs to win one more though, so he can tie Larionov.
He might.
If he wants to get into Igor Larionov territory, yeah.
He
has to win
might.
one more. All right. So, anything else on Vegas though? I mean, I feel like I said, Vegas. There's not really much to say. I mean, they don't have room to do anything. They have 3 guys that they have to make a decision on, and I mean, like I said, same as it ever was. They're gonna be the toast of the Pacific again. I hate it. I hate them. They can die in a fire.
I think it's the same thing that I said with Colorado, where really all they need to do is try, to bring back the guys that they had this past year that are currently slated to leave, and give it another go. I think Vegas and Colorado are very similar, where really good team very easily could have been in the position that Tampa Bay is in right now, and was just in a given moment not the right team. And I don't know. Like I said, I agree with you, Ian and Kevin. Both of you said I think Alec Martinez, getting him back should be priority number 1, because
Absolutely.
It's the Pietrangelo and the Theodore show there for sure. But I mean, Martinez, he was the only guy scoring goals on that blue line for a while. Played on a broken foot all summer.
And maybe he needs surgery, and maybe he'll be out all next year.
There you go.
And then they can sign Alec Martinez.
I like the point you made, Jerk. And this is what I'm bringing up is gonna go back to probably our first year with Pucknology Writers Room, which is, why not stay the course if you're Vegas? Because you didn't win the cup this year doesn't mean the same team can't be next year's winner.
Yeah.
That was always a thing that bugged me about the Sharks, was Doug Wilson had to make all these changes year after year. Kept the core the same, but it was like, oh, we didn't win this year. We need to get rid of the third and the fourth lines and the third D pair entirely and start fresh. It's like, that roster could possibly just be a year away. You could just keep the team. So I think, though, with Vegas, you want to talk about something going forward, because you mentioned how their center woes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Glass, it's his time to shine.
Yes.
Like, he's
100%.
He's done enough in the minor leagues, although actually this year he didn't really do much of anything for either team he played for. But I mean, Vegas, by getting rid of Nick Suzuki, really put the onus on Cody Glass to step up and be the second line guy at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He'll probably be the third line guy next year, but he needs to have an impact for Vegas, I think, and that would help their cap woes tremendously. So
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're gonna have to get some help from as any team that's up against the cap. They're gonna need help from their youth, and I mean, that's a really good show. Like, obviously, they when they were looking at who they're going to move, they thought they had more in Cody Glass than they did Nick Suzuki, and
right.
That might come back. And
I think it was
haunt
warranted,
them.
guys.
I think they're both great players.
Yeah, for sure. I do agree with you. I think at the time it was more of like a coin flip, really, or even, since there were 3 first-round picks from that first year, it was almost like, okay, we've got Cody Glass, we've got Nick Suzuki, we have Eric Brandstrom. They ended up sending Brandstrom for Mark Stone. Obviously, Suzuki went for Pacioretty. So I always kind of, and again, I don't have any knowledge to back this up, but I just get the impression, I had the impression at the time I wouldn't have been surprised if 2 of those guys were moved just to accelerate their timeline, especially with how well they came out the gate that first year. But I mean, you're right, Ian. Cody Glass, he needs to step up. He needs to at least try to show that he was, at the very least, that flip of a coin I mentioned between him and Nick Suzuki, and I think he'll have ample opportunity coming next year. I mean, obviously they have William Karlsson locked up, who is good, but I don't think he's $5.9 million good. And then Chandler Stevenson, who I think's been punching up for 2 years. So Cody Glass is going to have a chance to play some big minutes next year, and it's a matter of if he can take advantage or not. Like I said, earlier, I don't see a way, if they are dead set on keeping Marc-Andre Fleury, I don't see a way they, if they want to get Alex Tuch more minutes and re-sign Matthias Janmark and maybe find a center, I don't see a way they do all that unless they send out Riley Smith or Jonathan Marchessault. I just don't see a way.
Yeah, I think that is that's fair.
So David Savard got to lift the cup a moment ago, and I think that's pretty awesome for him because dating back to last year's playoffs, I thought he was playing out of his mind. Fantastic for Columbus against Tampa Bay in the playoffs last year, and I think a player who's really kind of flown under the radar throughout his career, being a solid defenseman for Columbus. So, and a guy that we spoke of when we had the Jets break down like what they needed to fix. I think it was Jerk had said like the Jets could use a guy like David Savard, and now he's a Stanley Cup champion. So good on him.
I only want to mention this too. I get the impression we're going to revert back to Tampa Bay a lot just by virtue of they just won the cup and we're all watching the game. But you said it earlier, Kevin, and I don't think it's said enough how incredible Ryan McDonagh is.
Oh my God. Actually, he was drafted by Montreal, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And traded for Scott Gomez.
That's what I was trying to say. It was traded for Scott Gomez.
And I always think it's kind of fascinating when a guy goes to a team as a rental and then they just think, you know what, why play the field? I'm just going to stick here. Yeah. And McDonagh, if you want to talk about that core, McDonagh is like the new guy, so to speak. It's always been the Hedman, Stamkos, Kucherov show, and now you have McDonagh come in. I mean, whatever your opinion on jersey letters are, he's an alternate captain. He's not going to razzle dazzle you with the offense, but he's just a pill to play against defensively. And I don't think he gets enough credit because of, like I said, Hedman, Sergachev, and then you mentioned David Savard on the third pair has been incredible as well.
Yeah, and even when McDonagh was with the Rangers, I mean, he was the guy, he was the captain, he was the pillar stone of that back end. But they also had Dan Girardi, who, funny enough, went with him to Tampa Bay. But they had Dan Girardi, who also, was getting a lot of spotlight on defense for them as well. So I would not say McDonagh is overshadowed, but I mean, he's not the premier player. Sergachev and Hedman would be the names you'd think of, I think, before McDonagh. But McDonagh is a top pair defenseman on pretty much any team as far as I'm concerned. So
yeah.
Okay, guys, I am going to move on to the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders have the opposite problem of Vegas. They have a lot of guys that are up and not a lot of money to do anything with. So projected cap space for the New York Islanders is only $5.7 million, 5.786. And they have Kyle Palmieri. Kyle Palmieri is a UFA. Travis Zajak's a UFA. Casey Zizekas is a UFA. Michael Del Cole and Anthony Bolivia are both arbitration eligible restricted free agents. On the blue line, it's Braden Colburn, Andy Green, Adam Pelech the first two are UFAs. Pelech is a arbitration eligible restricted free agent. They also have Ilya Sorokin and goal as an arbitration eligible restricted free agent, and Corey Schneider is a UFA, which is I didn't realize Corey Schneider was on the Islanders.
Yeah, he was the third string. He was the third emergency. What do you call it? Emergency.
Was he the taxi goalie?
Yeah,
taxi goalie. That's what it was. Yeah.
It's worth saying. I mean, you make an excellent point about their salary cap woes, Ian. It's worth saying. Johnny Boychuk, $6 million is going to get tucked on the long-term injury.
Yes.
So if you want to be technical, which this is not how it works, but if you want to be technical, it's more like 11 million.
Like 11. But that's still a lot to do.
Well, and that's the thing. To your point, Beauvillier is obviously really important to that team. Adam Pelech is really important to that team. But by all accounts, Kyle Palmieri quite enjoyed his time there. And, I think he'll end up somewhere else. But if for some reason Anders Lee like couldn't come back ever, like Kyle Palmieri, I think would slide into that spot seamlessly.
Goodrow's got the cup. Palmieri and Zajac, I thought, even when they were acquired, I thought that was a good fit for them. But my goodness, that was a good fit for them. You guys talked about free agent, they're soon-to-be free agents who just decide to stick it out, with the team that acquired them. I think it would be in the best interest of both those players to stay with the Islanders because I thought they fit in seamlessly for that team. Now you mentioned, Ian, that they're going to lose some players most likely here, but I mean that would certainly soften the blow of that because the nucleus will still be there. I feel like, and say what you want about Lou Lamoriello being past his prime as a GM or not in touch with today's hockey and all that, from when he was with Toronto. But I think Lamoriello's team building with the Islanders, outside of the stupid facial hair rule. But I think that most of that was just media and fan driven up in Toronto because Lamoriello has shown he's very much with the times still and knows how to build maybe not a cup winning team, but a contending team for sure. Because the Islanders have been, up in the conference finals last couple years and a damn entertaining team to watch. Like I think outside of Tampa Bay, I think the Islanders have played the best team philosophy the last 2 years.
Well, and back-to-back GM of the year for a reason, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't do that by accident or if you're quote-unquote out of touch.
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes, like, the Lamoriello stuff does kind of annoy me, though, because, like, at the same time, it's like, oh, well, Toronto should have kept him. Like, what did he do in Toronto? And, like, don't tell me Lou Lamoriello didn't have a wide berth to do whatever he wanted in Toronto. Like, don't tell me that, like, oh, no, Kyle Dubas wouldn't let him do that. Like, get real, right? Sure. And the other thing too is like, what was the first thing he did? Oh, I'll just hire the coach that won the Stanley Cup because that's an option that every GM has, right? Like, I think sometimes like
only if you're the Island.
Yeah, like I feel like sometimes like the legend of Lamoriello is a little bit overstated, and it has a lot of know. It has a lot of selective memory. Like I'm not saying he's a bad GM, but I'm just saying like I think he gets a ton of credit for hiring the coach that just won a Stanley Cup because Washington was stupid. Right? Like I don't know. I mean, I'm not taking away what he's done in there. I just feel like sometimes like the legend has a lot of selective memory going there.
I think that's to the territory for any GM who you talk about.
Yeah, no, that's probably fair. I look at this team like again, like this team they just have to figure out how they're going to get past Tampa because Tampa's their kryptonite.
No kidding.
Hey, what do you guys think about the Islanders goaltending though? Because like Sergei Varlamov, I thought played one of his best seasons this year. A shortened season, but I thought he played one of his seasons. But he did get hurt right at the start of the playoffs, which was horrible timing. And kind of was in and out of the lineup. Had really good games some nights, but then a little, bothered by inconsistency, maybe injuries. Sorokin, I thought was not that impressive during the regular season, but Sorokin looked like a pretty good goalie there in the playoffs as well. So do you think they're solid enough in goal, or do you think that the Islanders would need an upgrade?
I don't know. Who are you gonna get? Like I feel like I don't know. Like is Carey Price available suddenly? I don't like. I don't know what else they could do that would be better than what they have.
No, I think. I mean, you gotta stick. I think you stick with You stick with Semyon Varlamov. You stick with Ilya Sorokin. Obviously, Varlamov is the guy there. I mean, to your point, Kevin, he was incredible this year.
Yeah.
But I think if, say, he comes back down to earth or if he totally stubs his toe, I actually quite liked Ilya Sorokin's game this year. I thought he played very well, considering he's a North American rookie. So I think if you have to tandem with them, I think the Islanders would still be able to hang in there. And you're right, they do have to get through Tampa Bay, but I still think even after 2 years of this, I still legitimately feel like a lot of folks are sleeping on the Islanders.
Yeah.
And it's just their style of play is so weird, but like it's effective. And so I don't know. I think their goaltending is fine. Like I said, I would be, I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit worried about their forward depth just because it seems like they have all their forwards are like really good, and they don't have that elite talent or like that really, really good. And so maybe that's where Tarasenko comes into play, but not without sending money back, whether that's Jordan Eberle or Josh Bailey or, something like that.
I think that'd be a bad move. Josh Bailey has definitely, I don't know if he's overperformed, but just Josh Bailey has found such a perfect pattern to his game the last 4 years for the Islanders. I think that would be a mistake. I see what you're getting at there. If I'm the Islanders, that's someone that's untouchable to me.
Mm-hmm.
I look at the problem is this team right now is that if Matt Barzal isn't going, this team isn't going. Like this team lives and dies on the play of Matt Barzal, and they have to. They can't. Matt Barzal needs to be able to have an off game, and they need to find ways to still win games when he's not going. I think that's the one thing with this team. If I had a criticism of it, that would be the big one. This team lives and dies with Matt Barzal.
Well, and I think too. I honestly think Matt Barzal could be a 100-point player, and he's not done that. Obviously,
not
he's
in that
been
system.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. He's been, despite that very defensive-minded sandpaper kind of system, he's been able to get offense. But I kind of think, circling back to my point before, like, I almost wonder if you were able to pair Barzal, with like an elite winger, I wonder if they would just like tear things up together,
Yeah, and Ricky in the chat saying because Anders Lee was hurt, and that's fair. That is fair,
right? And Anders Lee is, he's their teddy bear, So
yeah.
Hey, former San Jose Shark Frederick Claesson lifting the Stanley Cup right now.
You're welcome, Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty incredible that Patrick Maroon's gone back to back to back.
That is amazing.
I feel like when he signed with St. Louis, it was kind of like, okay, I'm back in my hometown. If we win, I'm done. If we lose, I'm done. And then here he is. He won a cup with the Blues, and then he's like, I'll go win 2 more with Tampa. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I wonder if all these cups has kind of put the wind back in his sails.
I wanted to bring this up on the go home, the finale here of the show. But yeah, you're right. I mean, think about it, guys. Patrick Maroon was signed by the Blues. There was a bit of fanfare, the hometown guy and all that. Didn't go so well that first year. The second year, he was getting scratched. They put him on waivers, I think. I know they tried to trade him, but I believe they put him on waivers. He went unclaimed, and then he ends up winning the Stanley Cup. And then goes to Tampa and wins the Stanley Cup and again wins the Stanley Cup. Like, to go from near retirement, like when he didn't get claimed from waivers, they were talking about Patrick Maroon just hanging the skates up right in that moment.
Yeah.
And now he's won 3 Stanley Cups since then. So, and had a goal in game 3, I think. So, I mean, hats off to him. Like, I don't know what else, if he wants to keep playing, then he'll keep playing. But if he, now he's on the screen being interviewed by what's his face, who thankfully won't be on the broadcast anymore after tonight.
The only reason I brought him up is because they just interviewed him on Sportsnet.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So clearly a popular guy.
Yeah, but I mean, it's awesome for him. He's a good locker room guy. He seems like he's got a good attitude. Again, if he wants to keep playing, he certainly has the right to do so. At the same time, if he has any inkling of retiring, like he did 3 years ago, not a bad way to go out.
Not a bad way to go out at all. Okay, going to get in some rapid fire here quick. I'm going to start with the Minnesota Wild because they made a couple of trades since we talked about Minnesota not too long back. Joel Eriksson Ek, 8 years, $42 million, $5.25 million AAV. None of that has any signing bonuses in it, which is something I've been curiously keeping an eye on with the signings so far to see if teams would shell out signing bonuses after all this that happened.
So I like Joel Eriksson Ek, and I was a bit suspect of that contract. Just because, it's an 8-year deal. And I personally didn't feel like I had seen a lot from him to warrant it. So one of my good friends is a Minnesota Wild fan. I pumped him for some information on the Joel Eriksson Ek. So he says, great driving play offensively, great defensively. He's been... He was on a 44-point pace this year while playing a shutdown role with Jordan Greenway and Nick Foligno. So if you actually put him on the power play and with Kaprizov or Fiala, the offense is going to grow even more, and was also very complimentary of his possession numbers in comparison to other guys like Steven Stamkos, Matt Barzal, Sasha Barkov, etc.
Yeah, it seems like it's a long deal, but I think I feel like with the flat cap, guys aren't going to get the number that they probably think they're going to deserve, so they're going to try and make up for that in term. I can't really blame them.
And he's also 24.
Right, 24, former first round pick, 20th overall by the Wild back in, what was it? 15?
2015.
Yeah.
15.
John Cooper on the cell phone lining up his next trade.
Yeah, there you go.
I think with Eriksson Ek, with that contract, I've stated on this show how I don't like players getting these long, big contracts after one good season, or in Eriksson Ek's case, probably about 1 1/4 good seasons. But Minnesota, we've talked about their lack of depth at center. He's a guy who has stepped his game up after Mikko Koivu took a step back last year and then departed this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Minnesota can afford it, even if it turns sour. He's got enough upside with his age, and he was a high draft pick. So I think it's going to work out just fine, because even if Eriksson Ek doesn't end up putting up a whole heck of a lot more points than what he already has, he is a reliable defensive center. He'd be a very expensive third C at worst.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean it's a long deal, but the money's fine. I don't know why you would want to get out of it. At that money, at some point this cap is going to start moving again. It's going to start moving in a positive direction again. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Now, how long that's going to take to happen, that is anybody's guess. But I feel like before this deal's out, God, I hope we're seeing positive cap movement again, because otherwise, wow. As a team with some pretty bad contracts, I'm a little nervous.
No, you know what? I think it'll go up a lot sooner than people think. Obviously, the pandemic was really big. No fans was obviously awful. But the the people who are paid to know what they're talking about with regards to the salary cap. People are still pointing to the Seattle expansion money.
Yep.
They're still pointing to legalized gambling. They're still pointing to the ESPN TNT TV deal. Like, I'm not saying that the cap is going to be 100
the
million
expansion
next
money
year.
doesn't count because it doesn't go to HRR, but
True.
the extra gates that are going to come in from Seattle being in the league, which was a big that Vegas pushed the cap up because of the gates.
Right.
And Seattle should be no difference. If we can put people in the arena, and at this point I don't foresee any reason why there wouldn't be.
Right.
If they can fill their arena, then that's just that's $1 billion extra, that's 80 extra gates or whatever, 82 extra gates or 42 extra gates.
And I think, and it's going to for sure, it may not be a crazy increase like we've seen the last few years prior to the pandemic, but I think the number is going to start ballooning up, I think, sooner than we think.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Next thing, keeping Nick Bjugstad 1 year, $900K to stay with the Wild. I was surprised that $900K, like that's a pay cut, is it not?
Yeah, he made.
I think he signed league minimum this year, didn't he?
No, he was on. He was on the last year of a big ticket. He signed with Florida. He actually made $5.25 million this past year.
Okay.
So definitely, that's a pretty size. It's like what, a 400% pay cut about. Yeah. But I mean, I don't want to say I've liked this player. He's a player that I've been generally interested in. He's seemed like definitely cashed in on a couple good years in Florida that got him that big ticket. But I think for what he was, especially in Minnesota, trying to revive his career, I think he played very well, all things considered. And I think, it's a body that they have, expansion purposes, obviously, but I think he was very serviceable on the fourth or third line. And, for $900,000, it's hard to hate.
No, I can't hate it. I mean, I look at this and I look at it like this, right? We've talked about teams, and a lot of them don't have a lot of cap space. The ones that we've talked, like obviously, if you're going to look to be, I'd like to go to a contender now. Well, there's not a whole lot of room. So, I mean, taking a almost league minimum deal to play, another year in a place that obviously he likes, because I don't think you take that big of a haircut to stay somewhere you hate. And then, hoping that you can do something that will, add an extra zero at least to that paycheck the next time you go to sign a new contract.
Yeah. I think Bjugstad just, again, with the center depth, they don't really have anyone they could bring up. And 6'6" centers don't grow on trees. They are trees. Do not. They are trees. So, to me, it's fine. Plus, I haven't looked into it too much, but maybe Minnesota signed Nick Bjugstad for the same reason that the Sharks signed Matt Nieto. Maybe it's an expansion purpose.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I don't know. I haven't looked that much into it, but
definitely. I mean, the Wild. I feel like the Wild are a team that are gonna have to make some tough choices when it comes to their protection list. I can't wait till the protection list drops because it's gonna be fascinating. But I feel like the Wild are a team that are gonna be in trouble to possibly lose a player this time around again that they probably don't want to lose. So it's probably a good idea to dangle a few extra guys out there that, especially on a deal like that. And then again, you go to Seattle, Seattle, I don't know what Seattle's plan is, but from the sounds of it, they sound like they don't want to like go break the bank right out of the gate. So, if you take that small deal and you go to Seattle and then be like, okay, well now I need a little bit more money. And if things in Seattle work out, if that's the destination, I mean, you could do far worse, right? Let's see here. What else we got here? We have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, another 8-year deal, $41 million, 5.125 AAV. He does have a couple $2 million signing bonus in 27-28, sorry, and a $1.25 million in 28-29. I think I might have that wrong.
I think Nuge was gonna get bank on the open market.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel about the salary for him re-signing with Edmonton, but I think he is a pivotal player, and I don't mean that just because he's center. I mean, I think he's a pivotal player on that team, and they need someone else to be able to be considered a threat behind McDavid and Draisaitl. He's definitely not the same kind of offensive player those two are, but you can do far worse than Ryan Nugent-Hopkins in behind them. And again, I think he would have made big money on the open market for because kind of like Eriksson.
He would have a lot of suitors for sure.
Yeah, better than Eriksson Ek. I think he's got more offensive upside, and I think he's a better defensive center than Eriksson Ek. So, yeah.
I think it was important. I mean, it's important for Edmonton, obviously, because they're getting some breathing room with their cap this year. But McDavid at 12.5, Draisaitl at 8.5, you're going to have to pinch pennies elsewhere, and it's only it's an $875,000 pay cut, but that's still something. I mean, that's a fourth line winger that you can get signed, especially in a flat cap world. And I think also too, just how versatile Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is. I mean, he's going to play on your power play. He'll play on your penalty kill. He can play left wing with McDavid or Draisaitl. He can center Draisaitl. He can center his own line. He's too versatile and too important to that team to let go. And it's like I always, the thing I always say with pending unrestricted free agents is like, if you like the player and want the player, pay the price.
Yeah.
I don't think you could have said it any better, dude.
No, I mean, it sums it up. I mean, I'm surprised. Like, it's amazing to me because I feel like, I mean, again, there's not going to be a whole lot of landing places for players to go, especially right now. But it's surprising to me that you'd want to spend. I mean, Edmonton at some point has to turn the corner, right? I feel like we've been saying this for a decade, but at some point, Edmonton has to turn the corner, right?
I mean, maybe they should have kept Pat Maroon.
Jeez.
I wanted to mention Pat Maroon. I know I keep derailing the show, bringing up Tampa Bay, but I thought it was so cool just watching him celebrate with the fans and got to lift the cup just a moment ago, and they put the spotlight on him and everything. So I haven't been able to listen to commentary. I don't know if there was any purpose for that, but
maybe we called it. Who knows?
I think it's cool that Tampa Bay got to win in front of their fans because last year they won in a bubble.
Yeah,
they didn't get to celebrate with anyone except.
Yeah,
for their
you know
coach.
what? And now you say that, I'm fine with them winning back to back because I think that's a crappy way to win, like in an empty arena up north, like nowhere near your home. I mean, I know they got to go home and they did their little boat parade or whatever, but
all that.
But yeah, like I am happy that they got to do that. I don't know. I guess it's funny though because it's like I think the thing finishing on Nugent-Hopkins, I guess, is just that people. A lot of times people like, oh, people don't want to play in Edmonton, or people like, but clearly they do. Because otherwise, like, why would you sign 8 years if you didn't want to play there again, right? Like, I mean, I understand that Edmonton's better than, it's not Winnipeg, but it's not far behind it as far as crappy inclement weather to live through. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's good for them. I want to move on to I want to talk about the Viktor Arvidsson trade, and I kind of want to start a little segment. And I want to lead it into
the show to go into a second and possibly third hour. Okay,
it's gonna happen. I want to because I feel like the one thing that we usually did when we did these summer shows before was we would always look around the division. Because I think it's as much as it's important to know stuff about your own team, and there's really no Sharks news to talk about at all this right now. So I would like to start a little thing called Know Your Enemy. And to start off, we're going to talk about the LA Kings, because I think this trade makes the LA Kings a very interesting team this offseason. So LA traded a 2021 second and a 2022 third to Nashville for Viktor Arvidsson. Obviously a great price for Viktor Arvidsson. Nashville obviously had to make the deal because they are going to lose a player in the expansion draft. And even after trading Viktor Arvidsson, they're probably still going to have to make a deal with Seattle to make sure that they take the player that they want to lose at this point. And it'll be interesting to see if Seattle plays ball with them. Kevin, you're the Viktor Arvidsson guy. What does Viktor Arvidsson bring to the LA Kings?
Speed, offense, penalty killing, grit, intensity, heart. I mean, why wouldn't you want to spend a third round pick in any of 3 different years, Sharks, on a guy like that? The only thing with Viktor Arvidsson the last couple of years has been his injury history. But I felt like in the times where much has been said about the Predators' lack of offensive ability. Despite having offensive-minded players, they have not been able to gel together and create offense. Does that sound familiar, Sharks fans? Viktor Arvidsson has been like the one guy who's been the constant to be able to just energize the team and score at will, score power play goals, penalty, shorthanded goals, playoff overtime goals. Like, this guy, there's a lot of reasons in my opinion. I hope I'm selling him here, but I don't know why I want to sell him to Kings fans, but just to those of you out there, why I love this player so much and why I own his jersey. Viktor Arvidsson is going to do a lot of things with LA. I said last show that I think no, it wasn't on the show. It was somewhere else on Twitter or something. But I said, I believe he will score 8 goals against the Sharks this next season. So mark that as long as he doesn't get hurt again. But yeah, I think that he's everything LA needs because LA's got the prospects. LA, Ian has spoken about how they have a wealth of riches.
Oh, yeah.
Coming up here through their system, but what they do need, especially after like losing a guy like Jeff Carter, they lost Tyler Toffoli a couple of years ago. Like, they need to start building around these youngsters with good veteran leaders, good players, because you can't just have all young kids. Otherwise, you're the Edmonton Oilers, getting first round pick after first round pick after first round pick. Like, you have to complement the young players with good talent, whether it's offensive, defensive, or whatever. I think Arvidsson brings it all. So I think it's a great play. Probably would have gone for a first round pick, maybe not a high first round pick, but probably would have gone for a first round pick if he didn't have the injury history and the expansion consideration as well. But I think second and a third is a decent haul for him. But I think the Predators are going to miss him quite a bit.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say real quick. So I think, to Kevin's point, I think the price it's a worthy price to pay for the reasons you mentioned, but also, like, in 2021, LA had 2 seconds, and in 2022 they have 2 thirds. So they essentially gave up a duplicate of a pick they already had. So they're not really, they're trading with house money, so to speak. Yeah. And from Nashville's perspective as well, Kevin, you kind of alluded to the fact that even when everybody on Nashville was struggling to generate offense, Viktor Arvidsson found a way to generate offense. Yeah. And I think the knack for goal scoring he has, as you mentioned, the speed, the special teams, both end of special teams. I think he's going to be a really good player. And I think also from an LA Kings perspective, we were talking about knowing your enemy. So you have, Dustin Brown, Anze Kopitar, Alex Iafallo. That line's kind of been locked together for a couple years now.
Yep.
But now, for LA, they're building that secondary scoring, or that second line scoring, where now, you'll have Viktor Arvidsson, and you can put him with an Adrian Kempe on that other wing, and then maybe you have Gabe Vilardi in the middle, or you try one of their other centers there, Akil Thomas, Alex Turcotte. Not saying these guys are NHL ready, but you have the luxury of trying guys there, and they've also said they want another top 6 forward. Well, maybe that top 6 forward plays center. And maybe their name is Jack Eichel, or maybe their name is Evgeny Kuznetsov. But I think the big thing is, that top line I mentioned, they've relied on it heavily. And now, they got good minutes from Kempe this year, good minutes from Trevor Moore. Now they've got somebody, Viktor Arvidsson, to come in and be like that second line where it's like, okay, if our top line's not getting it done, we still got Arvidsson who's ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's I'm going to go through just the LA Kings situation, much like I did the previous teams when we were talking about what's next for like the other teams. I'm going to have a similar rundown here. So the Los Angeles Kings, this is a team with about $14.4 million in cap space. They do have some dead cap, though. They've got about $3 million in dead cap. Actually, maybe even closer to 4. They got 2.6 with Jeff Carter, 1 point, and that's till for 21-22. That's next year. They have Dion Phaneuf money still, just over $1 million until 22-23, and they have Mike Richards $900K counting against their cap till the end of time, basically. It feels like it's till the end of time. Obviously, they have some big contracts on the book still that probably that are, I don't want to say problematic. I mean, I think Jonathan Quick at 35 years old, at $5.8 million, probably a little bit problematic, but considering what he did for that team, you probably don't mind that as much. He is signed until 22-23. Drew Doughty, obviously 31 years old. He's going to be on that $11 million contract until 26-27. I think, Doughty, I still think Doughty has some left in the tank. I don't think he's as good as people think he is, but he's still got stuff left in the tank, and he obviously wants this team to get better sooner than later. And then Anze Kopitar is 33, and he is also making $10 million until 2023-24. Which for Anze Kopitar, I mean, is $10 million a lot? Probably. But again, like, I think with what he's given that team, do you hate that contract? I mean, I hate that contract because I feel like it's probably a little prohibitive. But I mean, Anze Kopitar is really, really good still too. Like, I don't think his game has slipped all that much. Is it $10 million good? I don't know. I guess, that's, I'd like to ask, I wonder what a Kings fan would say. Because to me, it seems like a lot for Anze Kopitar. But is it? I don't know. Maybe not. They have a couple of free agents they need to do. They're all arbitration eligible restricted free agents. Andreas Athanasiou, Trevor Moore, and Matt Luff. So my question is this. With all that being laid on the table, is LA just kind of taking advantage of Nashville's situation, or do you think this is them saying, I look at the Pacific Division and I see Vegas, I see Edmonton, I see the wild card that is Seattle, and I say, why not me? Why can't I be in one of those top spots? Is that what's going on here, or is this just them taking advantage of obviously expansion draft situation in Nashville, and maybe the tide needs to be bided a little bit more? What do you guys think?
Why not a little bit of both? Why not take advantage of other teams? I mean, that's kind of the underside of the expansion scenario is some teams will have room to take players at discounted prices that they wouldn't normally be able to do, and help propel them into a better situation. And I think that I love your point about could this moves like this potentially put LA in a playoff spot in the weak Pacific Division. And I think there's a lot of stock in that, Ian. So, but nevertheless, I mean, they needed to take advantage of it anyway. I think they're still they got Viktor Arvidsson. They will likely acquire one more forward. I know they have said they plan to acquire two top 6 goal scorers, and I'd say they got one.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if that's still enough to get them in the playoffs, or at least as a legitimate playoff team, but it gets them in the ballpark at least. So nice. I like your thoughts on that.
I think for LA specifically, I mean, I like the direction they've gone with their forwards. You know what I mean? Like I said, for bringing in Viktor Arvidsson, obviously that top line is very good. I think Adrian Kempe and Trevor Moore, I think these guys both had good, I don't want to say breakout years, but years where they kind of exceeded their previous ceiling. And so I think those are guys that maybe you want to hold on to and kind of build around as your middle six scoring. And, so I think that's fine. But the things that stand out to me, you mentioned Jonathan Quick, Ian, and how he's making a lot of money for, a largely reduced role. I think, I still think at this point you need to go with Cal Peterson. I know he's kind of been the de facto starter there, but I think you need to give him more starts. Just, he's a, I always think of him as like, oh, he's this young goalie that's really well. I mean, he's 26 and he's about to be a UFA after this coming season. So you kind of need to figure out if he can hang in there for 60 games a year. And I mean, aside from Doughty obviously had a good year, a resurgent year this past year. Matt Roy, I think, is a decent player. Same with Sean Walker. But aside from those three, that blue line, to me, it's not exactly exciting, and there's obviously, there's some words out there that maybe Olli Mata is a buyout candidate, and maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I think that defense needs work. I don't know how believable this is, but maybe LA gives Alec Martinez a call and says, "Hey, do you want to come back?"
That's what I was gonna say. Are they a team that are gonna circle back to a guy like Alec Martinez and be like, "Hey, maybe we're gonna do something here. Do you want to come and be a part of that?" Because I think like the pipeline in LA is obscene. Mm-hmm. It's obscenely good. I don't know what it looks like in goal. And goal is probably the one place where I do have question marks in LA. I don't know what they have in the pipeline as far as goaltending goes. But there's going to be a lot of really decent goalies that are going to be up for grabs this year. And again, like they have cap space. So I guess my next question would be, if you're Rob Blake, and let's just, for hypothetically speaking, we're kicking this rebuild into high gear. We're going to try and make a big move in the Pacific, or just maybe a big move now to set up for as these guys come up. Because I still think, like, regardless of what LA does this summer, they're not like, let's not pretend this is going to be a Stanley Cup juggernaut contender. They're going to be, I think they can do things to get well on their way to regaining that form, but that's still a couple of years out, where they're going to be a serious contender, where people are going to be like, oh shit, LA's coming to town. Like, I think the obvious one, obviously, is Jack Eichel, but they continuously say that they are not in on Jack Eichel, which I don't know why they wouldn't be. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. But so Jack Eichel aside, what is the move that you would make this summer to kick this thing into gear?
If I'm them, I don't know. Not in terms of like what to give up or anything, but just like a target. Sam Reinhart would be a good target.
I like that. I like that a lot. Jerk, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly would be very nice for them. I mean, it's not a big secret how much we all like Sam Reinhart, but I still think their priority needs to be a number 2 center to be behind Andrzej Kopitar. Maybe you move Sam Reinhart back to center, but I've always felt he's been better. They do have
a one Quentin Byfield that might be there sooner than later.
That's true. I mean, LA's kind of in a weird place right now, because they've got, Quentin Byfield, Alex Turcotte, Akil Thomas, Gabe Velarde. I mean, these are all guys who could theoretically project out to be at the, a middle 6 center. So it's like, okay, do you just kind of hang in there and wait to see what you have with these guys? Do you accelerate the timeline and say, hey, Buffalo, what do you think about this Alex Turcotte plus for Jack Eichel? Maybe that's a play as well. But I still think a second center is kind of their big need. It was really a black hole with Jeff Carter there, and then he goes to Pittsburgh and thrived. So I don't really know what happened there, but I think a second center is important. Like I said before, I love a good reunion story as much as the next guy. I say bring back Alec Martinez. I mean, the 2 picks that LA got for Alec Martinez were turned around and thrown to Nashville for Viktor Arvidsson, so it would almost be full circle in a weird way. But I think the blue line is the biggest concern, and I think you need to see if Cal Peterson can be a 60-start goalie.
Yeah, and with the defense, they have some defensemen. I don't know if they have anybody who's like truly a standout defenseman who's young, but they've got a couple guys. Cale Clegg, who is someone I expect them to protect in the expansion draft because somehow, even at his ridiculously young age, he is not exempt. Jordan Spence is another player, but I don't think I think he's at least a year out from being considered an NHL defenseman. But like, they definitely have room to build up that blue line because Joakim Ryan, for a good stretch of not this past season, but the year before that, Joakim Ryan I think played like 30-something games as the top pair defenseman for the Kings. So,
what do you in keeping that theme with their defense? Do you have, because you obviously mentioned Cale Clegg, do you have thoughts about Sean Durzi at all?
No, I do not.
Okay.
I think Sean Durzi has bust written all over him.
Okay. Because I've really liked his offense, but I don't know. It's not seemed to work out, I guess, the way everybody was sort of predicting it would when they acquired him.
Right, and in kind of the same vein, Marcus Phillips, who was a defenseman who I really liked, I think he's got bust written all over him as well. So the Kings have had a couple of unfortunate circumstances with that, but I think overall they still have some young kids that project to be NHLers. If they want to fast track that with to what Ian was saying about bringing in Arvidsson, bringing in another legitimate forward, they're going to need to bring in another legitimate defenseman or two. Martinez familiarity. The Kings, if I recall, did not want to get rid of Alec Martinez. They only traded him because it was their most logical play. So I could definitely see them at least making an offer.
So here's my things here. I'm doing two things if I'm Rob Blake this offseason. And keeping in mind we have cap coming off the thing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm calling Columbus.
Okay.
Ooh.
Because I want to know if I can get Seth Jones.
Why not?
That's my first move. And then my second call is I'm waiting for free agency and I am calling Brendan Saad. And I am asking how much money will it take to bring Brendan Saad to LA. Okay. Because I feel like at center, they're going to be fine. They just need to be patient. But you need someone to give those centermen the puck to that can put it in the net. And if you're looking at free agents this summer, and if you're trying to sell a team on the rise, which I think LA has the right to do, I think that's the first thing you do. The first thing you do is you're gonna see if you can pry Seth Jones out of Columbus, because that solves your blue line problem.
Don't you think it would cost them Byfield?
It might, but maybe. I don't know. I mean, Columbus is in a rough spot because what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to do something with them. Like what? I feel like Seth Jones is he an RFA? He's a UFA.
UFA.
Yeah. So I mean, if you don't trade him, you're gonna lose him for nothing. So you do have that leverage.
And also too, the fact that he's come out and said, "I'm not re-signing here," like. The choice is lose him for nothing or lose him for less than he's worth. I mean, those are your two choices if you're Columbus.
Yeah, and I think Rob Blake can absolutely exploit that situation. And then you look at that blue line that you add Seth Jones to that blue line. That's a. I mean, is it a super scary blue line? No, but it's significantly better with that injection than it was when you started.
Absolutely, the hot ticket is. Pile a bunch of great defensemen together. So Seth Jones and Drew Doughty together makes sense.
And yeah. I like your inclusion of Brandon Saad there. I mean, I'm a big fan of Brandon Saad. Like he legitimately maybe one of my favorite non-Shark players. I love Brandon Saad, and he's one of those guys, to your point, Ian, where he's a winger, yes, but he, in spite of being a winger, he's more inclined to go get the puck and give it to somebody else, and yeah, he can rip the puck and he'll score goals, big goals for you when it matters most, but he has the speed, and he can go get the puck for these young centers, whoever it is, Byfield, Turcotte, Thomas, Velarde, like he can go get the puck just using his speed and using his strength. And, that's not something that crossed my mind, but then you said it, and it sort of like, the hamster started spinning on the wheel again, because it's, it's a really good idea, I think, for what they need.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, now that the cup has been awarded, I think, what do we have to look forward to now? I think, because I think we have a few things to look forward to. One, I think we're going to see some deals ahead of the expansion draft, which is what, a week away, 2 weeks away, a week away. The lists are a week away, right? Teams have to drop their protected lists, I believe, on the 17th.
The 19th, I think, is when they're due, and I believe the expansion draft is the 21st.
Yeah, so, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Like, obviously, this is something we're definitely going to circle back to as the summer progresses and as we get closer to the season. We're going to run down through everyone else in the Pacific, and I'm sure LA we're going to circle back. But I just thought it was an interesting with the move, and LA was a team, because I know it's a team that we keep saying it's going to be scary, but not yet. But they could do some things that could definitely speed up that track. So, I don't know. I mean, going forward, that's the big thing now. Obviously, from the Sharks' perspective, Sharks got to sign another forward so that they can have someone else to expose that meets the requirements, because right now they don't meet the requirements. The buyout window does open in 2 days? Sure.
So actually, I looked it up, and I don't know if it's because of the shortened off season, but normally it's 48 hours after the cup is awarded. This time it's 24 hours. So, if you're in the Eastern time zone, midnight on Friday.
There you go. So, I think something that we were talking about before we came on air, obviously, if Martin Jones doesn't get bought out right away, don't panic, because the buyout window doesn't close until after the expansion draft. So obviously the Sharks aren't going to buy out Martin Jones tomorrow and then be like, who are we going to expose? We have to expose a goalie that meets the requirements. So I feel like Martin Jones isn't going to get protected. And then after he doesn't get taken by Seattle, because Seattle have smart people, at least they appear to have smart people running that team, then they'll buy out Martin Jones. So don't panic if they don't go. Getting a question in the chat here, and I don't want to go too long, but Ricky asking about if do the Sharks go after a goalie like Antti Ranta? I don't think Ranta would be on the radar. Ranta's too injury prone, and I feel like they're gonna go with, it's gonna be Kozanash and starter, and I don't feel like they're gonna put themselves in a situation where it's gonna be Kozanash and Melnichuk, because Ranta's injured.
I'm offended you don't think Melnichuk can hack it right now.
Oh man.
I've got a name for you guys.
Okay.
And I think it would have to work out by trade. But I was thinking Seattle drafts you spot on with the team talking about Antti Ranta. Seattle drafts Aiden Hill and trades him to the Sharks.
Ooh.
Aiden Hill is so good at playing against the Sharks. I'd be curious to know what he's like playing with the Sharks.
I mean, it doesn't super excite me.
What's up?
I said it doesn't super excite me, but
no, and nor should it. But I don't see the Sharks making any big plays to try. I don't see the Sharks buying out Martin Jones, to be quite honest. But if they do go that route, They're going to need someone with Kojanash, and I think it's either Dubnyk comes back through free agency for a year, or you get like a low risk, medium reward goalie like Aiden Hill.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm torn. I mean, in the chat, they're saying, like, in the chat, AJ and then Marty was kind of agreeing with, like, you only have, like, Martin Jones only has a couple of years left on his deal, and the Sharks aren't going to be good next year. But I can't tell. I don't know how you can sell, like, this big talk, like, all this talk about, oh, well, we can't sell anyone on a rebuild. But how do you sell season ticket holders on another season of Martin Jones?
I'm sorry, but to me, that's 100% marketing, and the Sharks and Barracuda marketing over the last many years has been not good. So,
see, you say it's hard to sell tickets with another year of Martin Jones. All you got to do is your commercials and your graphics and your banners around the tank. Just get a teal banner with 2016 on the front of it, and that's it. That's all you got to do.
Oh, it's true.
Eric Fair left Switzerland, although I believe he has retired. But if he hasn't retired, bring back Eric Fair, and it's party like 2016 all over.
There you go. And you know what? And if you can't party like 2016, just get a bunch of monitors and have it show Game 7 Vegas on loop.
Yes, our the last positive moment as a franchise was almost 3 years ago. What is that?
It's terrible.
Here you go. You sell it on. See the future 2-time Stanley Cup winners for other teams who will play with the Sharks this year.
Barclay Goodrow returns to the tank with someone else.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, for me, Martin Jones has to go. You have to buy him out. You can't. We've seen this too many times. Like, I will watch because I'm a fucking idiot, but like, I don't understand how you can come back with Martin Jones, even if I don't think they're going to be good next year. And I think that there's a lot of double talk in from the front office, especially like, ultimately at the end of the day, for me, the answer is this: when it comes to the topic of, how do you get fans to come back to the seats? You take care of the hockey side first, because if the hockey side is good, the business side will follow. If you make business decisions if you make too many decisions based on business over the hockey, then you're just setting yourself up for endless suffering. Take care of the hockey side. The business side will follow. I don't know. Like,
yep.
To me, it's that simple.
And I think that's been a problem just organizationally, is the Sharks are worried about too many of the outside things and just not enough on the on-ice performance there.
Right. Like, it's like we can't rebuild because fans won't come. Well, fans won't come if the team's bad regardless, so maybe don't make stupid hockey decisions based on business.
Bingo. Exactly. No, I'm with you on that.
All right, guys. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna try and wrap this puppy up. So if you have anything to say, go ahead.
Out there to everyone, because our we've actually gained viewers since the end of the Stanley Cup broadcast on NBCSN. So thanks for all watching, and thank you for watching. If you're watching during the game and just listening to us kind of refer back and forth to it, that's awesome. If you are joining us late, of course, we encourage you to go back and watch the show from earlier when you weren't watching. But also, I expect that we'll get a fair amount of viewers who were watching the game who will catch this entire podcast on tape delay. And I just want to say thank you all for being a part of this tonight. I know we did not intend on going head-to-head with the Stanley Cup winning game that it was, but this was the only date this entire week that we could all get together.
That worked, yeah.
That's why we scheduled it this way. But it was pretty cool to be able to discuss live the Lightning winning the Stanley Cup. And we have 20 likes, out there. So thank you all for your continued support. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone in the chat and everyone watching and listening on your favorite podcatcher.
Absolutely. Jerk, any final thoughts?
Oh man, another year in the books. The COVID season, 2 COVID seasons, has made for a lot of interesting stats. It's weird. It's weird to think about. Tampa Bay has now won 2 Stanley Cups in less than 12 months, if you want to think about it that way. So, thought that was interesting. Victor Hedman, obviously, has now scored a goal in every month on the calendar, which is interesting. Hockey is weird, and the pandemic made it weirder.
Did it ever?
This is one of my favorite parts of the season. Is getting into entry draft, free agency, and with the expansion draft this year. I mean, there's going to be so much to talk about, so much to react to, also so much like hypothetical stuff to sort of kick around. And I kind of think I like the idea of a know your enemy and maybe starting, okay, here's where they're at, where do we think they should go from here. I think that would be really fun. As for a final thought, maybe this is a hot take, maybe I'm a genius. It's up for you to decide. 2022 is going to be the Tampa Bay three-peat.
Oof. Well,
can you argue against that?
I can't. I mean, I can, but I don't know. I mean, this playoff has been weird. Everything I've said has basically gone the opposite way. Like, I've never had a playoff year. It's been a long time since I've had a playoff year just make me feel so hockey dumb as this year's playoffs. Just wild stuff. Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, coming up on Teal Town USA, I just want to get this out here quick. Obviously, that week where all the stuff happens, then there's going to be a lot going on this channel. It's going to be us. It's going to be everyone. I think it's going to be a pretty hectic week of all hands on deck. So look forward to a lot of content for the expansion draft, for the draft, for all of that fun stuff. I can't imagine there's going to be probably plenty of content that week, and then it'll probably eke off again towards free agency. And obviously we're going to do this all summer, right up until the season starts. And then once the season starts, Pucknologists will start again, and then we'll have After Darks and everything else. So I hope I know some people in the chat are being like, they were like, what's going on here? This is Teal Town. Why are we talking about LA? This is what we do. We like to talk about everything. And to be completely fair, the Sharks haven't done anything. Like, there's really nothing Sharks to talk about. I mean, I could have ranted about Martin Jones for old time's sake, but at that point, am I any better than saying, hey, buy your season tickets. Just remember that cool Game 7 in Vegas. Like, I don't want to shark it.
Do you want us to talk about interdivisional trades that are happening, or do you want to talk about which sponsorship's going to be on the helmet next year?
Yeah. Like, you know what? I mean, this show, obviously, this show has always historically been a more NHL-focused show. Trust me, if there's Shark stuff, we'll talk about it. And like I said, there's plenty of Sharks-specific stuff that is going to be coming up, and we are going to talk about a whole lot of it, as well as get you ready for the season with what's going on around the rest of the league, especially in the Pacific Division. Probably more Pacific Division focused than anything else, but if something else cool happens, we're going to talk about it. Other than that, again, I just want to thank everybody for being here, for watching along, like Kevin said, watching along with us while the game was going. Or if you're catching this on your favorite podcatcher, thank you for you taking the time to listen to this as well. Other than that, I don't really have much to say. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning, your 2021 Stanley Cup champions. And next year, I think I saw the Sharks odds were like plus 1,800. So you're telling me there's a chance? I guess. I don't know. But other than that, guys, really appreciate you guys being here. Look forward to doing this all summer, and I hope you guys come along for the ride. And that is it for us. Thank you, and have a good night.
going to take it out, Ian.
Okay.
So this was the final broadcast on NBC Sports Network. I have a little tiny bit of soda left in my glass from NBC Sports. So sayonara to NBC Sports.
All right.
It's over. Good night, everybody.
And with that, we say thank God NBC Sports is gone.
All right. Good night.
Yeah, until people realize